The acceleration of the Aquarian Pluto, the bench of the banking business, Dante's question of free will and moral responsibility. Two unusual examples of the Gemini type in the field of letters are Dante and Bernard Shaw. Dante wrote his Inferno so that he could show in luminous verbiage all his enemies roasting in the pits of perdition. The Shavian humor has about it the bite of shallowness. It is not the deep laughter of the gods who understand all, but the shallow, titillating laughter of mortals who understand not even themselves. Manly P. Hall. Pilgrimage. To follow Dante in his pilgrimage is to follow the path of the human psyche, the human condition, and the experience of our existence. Dante offers a view of the hero's journey from darkness to awakening, later known as the Jungian notion of individuation. Dante's path is lyrical, literal, esoteric, anagogical, allegorical, deep, and sometimes moralistic. Witnessing it, one discovers stage by stage the process of living according to one's design. Illustrated as a political critique of the role of the individual in society, Dante tells the story of a protagonist, himself, who meets his hero, Virgil, the Roman poet, who becomes the voice of reason. The pilgrimage is a metaphor for self inquiry. Virgil operates as a guide and creates in Dante an inner dialogue, such as a relationship one can have with a journal or with a therapist that listens and observes as one walks near the abyss. Virgil, as the other, creates a space where insights emerge for Dante and for the viewer who is the witness. The Divine Comedy accounts that individuals must take responsibility for their deeds and aim for ethical and moral virtues to live purposeful lives. I resonate with this part and the way Dante uses allegory as a device. The poem contains a compelling socio-economic and political examination addressing corruption and justice in familiar ways that seem extremely relatable to the roles we have constructed and what is expected for the individual in society. In my view, Dante Alighieri, if alive today, he would have been a Bitcoiner. God spoke to him in a dream. You live and will die in this prison so that a man I know of may see you in certain number of times and not forget you and place your figure and symbol in a poem which has its precise place in the scheme of the universe. You suffer captivity, but you will have given a word to the poem. Years later, Dante was dying in Ravenna, as unjustified and as lonely as any other man. In a dream, God declared to him the secret purpose of his life and work. Dante, in wonderment, knew at last who and what he was and blessed the bitterness of his life. Tradition relates that upon waking, he felt that he had received and lost an infinite thing, something that he would have not be able to recuperate or even glimpse, for the machinery of the world is much too complex for the simplicity of man. Translated by J.E.I. Inferno 1:32, Jorge Luis Borges. Virtuosity. Dante becomes Virgil for later writers. Fideli d'amore. Dante through Borges' eyes. To observe Jorge Luis Borges follow Dante is to witness a path of admiration and pure enchantment. While Borges did not speak Italian, and I do, he read the poem many, many times in the original text. As he mentions in his seventh night lecture, the translation could serve as a stimulus for the reader to approach the original. He continues to say that Dante's poetry is much more than what he says. Is Borges, or am I through him, stating that the pure comprehension of the beauty of this magnum opus is attained abstractly rather than logically? The four mathematical arts are arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. These anciently were termed the quadrivium, or fourfold way of knowledge. Sir John Hawkins, A General History of the Science and Practice of Music, 1776. Borges says poetry is about intonation and accentuation, often untranslatable. For me, it is about the feeling it and finding patterns I can correlate with my present experience of what I am in the midst of discovering. Borges adds that reading Dante like Shakespeare is a musical event because each line must be read out loud, as music corresponds and generates an emotional response. Borges goes on to make a case about Dante as a hermetic wizard, and as a reader, one must decipher its hidden meaning. Dante is already in paradise, unaware of what his destiny awaits, including hard times. He compares his strength and principles to the fourth phase tetragono. Vale mi fuor di mia vita futura parole gravi, avegna ch'io mi senta ben tetragono ai colpi di ventura. What you may or may not know is that through mathematics, we find patterns based on connections that configure aspects, phases in relationships. The frequency or time of these dimensions is what harmony is all about, and using the celestial bodies results as a verification device. For Dante, a single moment is enough. Borges has been admiring an encounter that actually belongs to Dante in the Middle Ages, that of presenting every occasion as a cipher of a life. In the beginning, we read the poem with the hope of someone who doesn't project or expect anything, like a child, surrendering ourselves to it. Then it will guide us through the circles and it will go on beyond space and time. This opera will perhaps turn into a sweet song of liberation. I don't know if Dante's intention was to write the masterpiece using the Tuscan dialect, unknowingly converting it to lingua franca after his death. Though the Divine Comedy was not translated into every dialect, it became widely read, laying the structure for a cultural unification in terms of the language that will later be called Italian. This alone is a very Aquarian characteristic. He used the technology, skill, of language to be spread to all the people, Aquarius, not just the erudite, and led the path towards the subconscious, a very Plutonian trait. Borges loved Dante, and I'm enjoying this relationship, and I have been listening to the original text. What a joy! The reason I humbly attempt to create a relationship between these times and Dante's was first expressed in the article I wrote a couple of weeks ago, see the button below, called Pluto and Aquarius Amuse-Bouche. And with the astrology of this year, I feel compelled to bring some lyrical textures to inspire you, my readers, to a beautiful journey. This is the oldest of mysteries. I will say no more for now. Both Dante, Borges, and even Calvino are winking at me in a mischievous gesture of reconnaissance. Pluto retrograde and upcoming lunar eclipse. Lyrical dimensions, circles, and structures. As with Dante's circling journey, which travels down the bowels of Mother Earth, this year shows the potential of being an incredible support if one allows the energy from the celestial bodies to assist on the journey of individuation. Moved by the poetry of the circles that were used as a metaphor in Dante's exquisite poem, with the extreme beauty and symbolism, which are the reminders of vibrational spaces and stages needed to sense the illusion as we evolve, the limbo, where the desire lives as clinging, like when we scroll the screen for more and more, or we indulge in numerous vices. Dante, during his exile, used writing as a tool to heal. How to measure one's value concerning others and the rest of the universe? One verse. I would like to bring some poetry to the situation, a lyrical way to approach its decadence. Dante's Divine Comedy can serve as a metaphor for different cycles we go through to reach the light, peace, whatever you would like to call your journey. How to leave this space of limbo, the place where both pagans and no-pagans can live and they attend the game of the light? Dante's descent into the underworld is akin to Pluto's abode in the darkness, a place to confront all limitations and fears. Before ascending, he starts in a dark forest, and in his pilgrimage, he meets yet another poet, Virgil, who resonates as his logos. As he climbs hills, wild beasts emerge, and he finds a way into the darkness, confronting hell, the inferno within the depths of the Hades. Pluto retrograde in Aquarius, squaring the nodal axis in Taurus Scorpio, is an incredible event, quite rare, for in order to be living a sovereign life in community and full of joy, one must face the fears and obstacles that any relationship can create. The relationship to self, Taurus, Venus, second house, essential needs and values, material appreciation and manifestation. The relationship to the other, other person, other situation, or other thing. That's a Libra Venus 7th house. The beginning of the synthesis when one can integrate shadows that are created via expectations. And last but not least, the relationship to the collective, Uranus, Aquarius, and 11th house. At this juncture, the individuals have learned to negotiate their needs and have leverage. So when they enter the realm of the others, they shine and feel liberated, serving the community as authentic selves. Pluto is the ruler of the upcoming solar eclipse, with the moon at 15 degrees Taurus, which also reigns the south node in Scorpio and which will end mid July. The retrograde motion of both the lunar nodes and Pluto have a very individuated quality. Pluto will re-enter Capricorn a couple of times before the end of 2024, initially on June 11th, 2023, and the lunar nodes will enter 29 degrees of the Libra Aries right after. The tension is present. It feels like a knife on your throat. Any faux pas, and it can all go the wrong way. Many old ways are being left behind, and many challenges that are happening now with the eclipses showing us some shadows are revealing the light, the way to embark. While we're still in the process, and as hard as it feels, one only has one option: keep rowing. Remember the whipping boat analogy I wrote about like 2 weeks ago? The theme is to know how to relate to self, relate to others, embrace the individual you have come to be, and contribute. As much as the focus is on the material realm, it is not about hoarding, but liberating ourselves from being possessive of ideas and other things, which impairs our ability to improvise and allow the innovation, the new. Position and orientation. Something magical happens when one is flowing down the river of life, not holding on to anything, just navigating down, feeling the wind caressing the skin. Eager to meet the fresh new air, 9.5 months ago, the opportunity to orient the journey was suddenly present. It urges to initiate something. Sudden orientation, sudden grounding to the monopole, that which integrates the anima animus. Uranus, the lord of the skies, met the path of destiny, the north node of the moon, and Mars, who is all about initiating, at gate 2. I was fired up. With courage and afraid, I made some radical changes. And now, after all these months, I can look back and know that I have started synthesizing the power of the Trinity. If one is oriented towards the right path, there are no worries, for one is in tune with the frequency that vibrates with your fractal family, who you have been recognizing in awe. Uranus returns to the same gate at line 2-6 as last August. 2 instances to look back to see where you were then and later by November 8th, 2022. Orientation or total dislocation. If your journey changed direction then, well, this sounds great. The eclipse falls at a very important angle of 45 degrees from the 0 point of Aries. Activations during this lunar eclipse. Mercury is retrograde in Taurus. It is revisiting all the work done by Uranus in the last 5 years. And when Jupiter comes through later in the year, we will all know how to use the new skills and resources to contribute to the new Earth. Something incredible was left behind. Let's be grateful to the skies for our eagerness to show up. Mars is squaring Jupiter and Venus entering Cancer. Whatever you are rebirthing has a shape, and there is excitement. The valor needed to embrace how this new phase feels at times is anxious and insecure, yet it has the potential to expand in aspiration, generating value by connecting to our emotional needs. I feel it. Do you? Bring on the change. Like Dante, the future, as we sail, feels solid and steady. Quote, our economic systems were not built for a world driven by technology where prices keep falling. They were built for a pre-technology era when labor and capital were inextricably linked, an era that counted on growth and inflation, an era where we made money from scarcity and inefficiency. That era is over, but we keep on pretending that those economic systems still work. Jeff Booth, The Price of Tomorrow, Why Deflation is the Key to an Abundant Future. The Corrupt Society. The Bench of the Banking Business and Dante's Question of Free Will and Moral Responsibility. Money exchangers developed facilities for exchanging local and foreign currency, operating in market squares, originally occupying benches, which later replaced by tables. Money lenders, banca, bancos. The word bankrupt also stands from the same time, when money exchangers physically broke their lending tables when things went south, signifying that business was not merely suspended but visibly short lived. It derives from bancarrota, which means broken bench, from Latin ruptus, the past participle of rompere, to break. Dante's concern about the relationship between political and ecclesiastical authority was known in the third book of the Monarch, exposing that power in the temporal earthly realm is neither derived from nor depending on spiritual authority. A human being consists of a soul and a body. Its nature partakes of both the corruptible and the incorruptible. Uniting two natures, human existence must necessarily be ordered to the goals of both these natures. Today, usury is the practice of charging exorbitant amounts of interest on a loan, but in the Middle Ages it was considered usury to charge any interest on a loan at all. The seventh circle is concerned with the various scenes of violence. In this canto, Dante and Virgil enter an area reserved for the sinners guilty of usury. The idea is to keep separate the branches of government with the banks and the church, to have each individual decide and care for their relationship to authority, value, and faith. All the blind faith has made people less accountable, for they still trust institutions to take care of themselves. Now, reading these days about the collapse of banks in the paper is becoming more normal. But what is not normal is to accept that this is the way it should be. Revolt. Now Bitcoin solves that banking problem. Dante criticized the misuse of power by the political leaders of his time, and he was exiled from his native Florence for his political beliefs. The Divine Comedy is a response to this event, employing allegorical figures to condemn the political and public figures, proposing a new form of government based on virtue. The origin of the word corruption has to do with something gone stale, no longer pure, beyond accountability, bending morals, and driven by greed. In the Commedia, many figures of great social responsibility dwell in hell. The last three tiers of hell are the core of what has gone stale and crooked: heresy, fraud, violence, and betrayal. A strong message that Dante conveys is a warning not to subdue secular authority in favor of religious authority, because power, when left unchecked, often corrupts. Other things are keeping obedience to outer authority, abandoning inner command to figures that portrayed leadership in realms of government and religion, and foregoing natural law by losing the common sense that could make a life lived meaningfully. If only one were like Dante after entering hell and learning the importance of making a commitment, which is the first step towards social action. The proper relationship of individual states, cities, and kingdoms to the empire and the separate and distinct functions of ecclesiastical and secular authority discussed in chapters 1 and 2 provide a political framework for the comedy. Within that framework, each cantica represents a different but related model for human society. Paradise is the ideal society in all its essential elements working harmoniously. Purgatory is a society in transition, moving from self-centeredness to concern for and commitment to others, but not yet organized within an effective structure. Hell reveals what society is when all its members act for themselves and against the common good. The souls here are condemned not just for their selfish motivations, but also for the effects of their actions on others. Dante's point is that as civic begins, we are responsible not only for our actions but also for their results. The people he presents were all men and women of prestige and power, people in a position to influence others either directly or by example. In a way or another, they all failed. The suffering, the violence, and the anarchy of hell are a result of their failure to act upon their responsibilities or their outright abuse of their responsibilities. Selfishness, greed for money, power, or pleasure is the basis of the injustice that reigns in hell, as charity is the basis of the justice that operates in heaven. The political vision of the Divine Comedy by Joan Ferrante. Do you see why Dante is invested in sovereignty and would have supported a network that operates with numbers that are as sacred as Pythagoras and others held true? You know, I'm talking about Bitcoin. Time speed. I have become aware of many historical repetitions, and although I have that awareness, I'm still observing patterns and finding connections in between. In seeing every single opportunity there is just to breathe. How dare I say these times are a simile of the times when Dante wrote his seminal work, The Divine Comedy, a brutally beautiful work of art that resonates in time? We are in the same frequency as Pluto was in Aquarius back then and Saturn was in Pisces. Radical confrontations with corrupted institutions that give form, dissolving the past and allowing an openness to innovation, evolution, and a clear transformation of the timeline. Why are we here if not to evolve? Can we realign with our frequencies, the ones that shatter the crystals of your core design and that are imprinted in your natal structural design? Your unconscious vessel that offers your evolution to take place as you move along the precision of all that is? Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates, everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. The Kabbalion. Are you noticing the change? Are you still vibrating in the frequency of fear? What would be the worst thing that could happen if you embrace the darkness? Are you aware that there is a part of you that has been showing courage and is ready to let go of the vulnerabilities that at times seem to freeze you or take you back to what is familiar, not necessarily the best outlet? The time for really showing up is here, revealed. No more masks, and it feels so free. Sevens, threes, nines, and l'amoroso uso de la sapienza, the loving use of wisdom. The composition and structure of the poem, A Spiritual Journey Towards the Sublime, is divided into three: Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso. Each contains 33 cantos, mirroring the medieval theology of the Trinity and the Hermetical Triad, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, or one, the Nous, and the Logos. Its impetus is to show the horrors the soul goes through during the process of awakening to the light and the darkness encountered during the hero's journey of individuation. The symbolism and connection to numerology persists throughout. He encounters three beasts, three-headed dog, and a three-faced Satan. Three women pray for Dante, and there are three rings within the seventh circle of hell. Dante travels through seven terraces of purgatory, and seven deadly scenes are pictured in the 9 levels of hell. The number 7 refers to harmonics, and there are 7 deadly scenes and 7 terraces in purgatorio, and 9 is the number of the circles of hell as well as the spheres in heaven. As for the love of knowledge and more hermetic content, I shall explore that in the future, and I will add more about the redemption of love, Beatrice, and the metaphor for the connection to the divine, and even his relationship to the secret societies as La Fede Santa, the Templars, and the Sufis, and a mysterious group of poets known in the literature as the Fideli d'Amore, the faithful to love. Oh, you possess of sturdy intellects, observe the teaching which is hidden here beneath the veil of verses so obscure. Dante, Inferno, section 961. In the Convivio, Dante establishes a precise relationship between heavens and the sciences, pointing out 3 similarities. The heavens move around the center, illuminate visible things, and influence the perfection of things, just as the sciences move around the given subject, illuminate intangible things, and lead our souls to perfection. To the first 7 heavens, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, and Jupiter and Saturn, correspond the 7 sciences of the trivium and the quadrivium, namely grammar, dialectics, and rhetoric, arithmetic, music, and geometry and astrology. To the 8th sphere, namely the starry heaven, corresponds natural science, which is called physics, and the first science, which is called metaphysics. To the 9th sphere corresponds moral science, and to the still heaven corresponds divine science, which is called theology. The heavens and the sciences, Museo Galileo, Instituto e Museo di Storia della Scienza, 2023. I say that by heaven I mean science, and by heavens the sciences. Convivio 2, 13:2. All right, so this was long. I love writing about the similitudes that I find between these times and the times lived 700 years ago. So have a good week. Just realign yourself with your own fractal so you don't have any disturbances. And if you do, just be brave. Go for it, because everything that is falling off is actually needs to stay not on you, but behind you. Have a good one. Bye.